Herzlich willkommen, mein Name ist Claudia Hoppe, das ist Folge 20 meines Impro-Podcasts. Dieses wird die zweite Folge sein, die ich auf Englisch aufnehme, nach Randy Dixon. Und zwar wieder mit einer Person von der Westküste. And now I will switch to English. With me in my home studio in Neukölln is the awesome Lisa Rowland from the Bay Area Theater Sports. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You're from San Francisco. Have you always been living in San Francisco? Or?
Yes, I grew up about an hour outside of the city. I went to school about an hour outside of the city. I took 1 year off and I lived in Barcelona, Spain. But then I came back and then I moved to the city when I was into San Francisco when I graduated college.
Okay, so you grew up in the Bay Area?
Yes, in the suburbs.
Okay. You're in Berlin now for how long? Or when did you arrive here in Berlin?
I arrived on Monday, and I will leave on Monday, so I'm here for a week.
Okay. Do you plan to travel anywhere else in Europe?
I came from the Würzburg Festival,
I
was there for 4 days or so before coming to Berlin. And
I see. So you already adjusted to the jet lag?
Yes.
Okay, that's great to hear.
Well, kind of, although I landed and was on festival time, which means crazy sleep and parties until late and teaching early, and so I've enjoyed some nice calm nights and sleeping a little bit more while I've been here.
Great. So what brings you actually to Berlin then?
Uta Walter and Thomas Jekyll I met Uta because she studies in San Francisco. She studied improv in San Francisco at the company that I play with. And last year I was here for the Applied Improv Network conference here in Berlin, and I met Thomas, and we played. They set up a show for us to play, and so we got to be friends. And when I knew I was coming for the festival, I just wrote them and I said, "Hey, I would love to come see you in Berlin and see if there's any improv stuff going on. It'd be fun." And they helped me. So I'm here to visit them, and then they helped me kind of connect with the rest of the improv community.
Okay,
yeah,
nice. You already mentioned it. You were here last year for the AIN conference.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your second time now in Berlin, or have you been here before?
I was here once before in college. That year that I spent in Barcelona, I had a friend who was studying in Berlin, and I came to see her here, but it was college visiting, so I don't remember anything. So in effect, this is my second time in Berlin.
Oh, yeah, okay. And do you like Berlin?
I love it. I think it's so beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you just managed the season before all the leaves are off the trees.
Yeah, and before it's horribly cold.
Yeah.
Like it's cold, but it's not insanely cold
yet, but I remember last year at the AIN conference, it really was horribly cold. It was unusually cold for beginning of October.
It was horribly cold.
Yes.
I was preparing myself for it to be just even colder since it's a little bit later this year, and luckily it has been manageable.
So what do you like best about Berlin? Is there anything?
You know what I notice is that there seems to be a ton of city support for arts and culture, and a lot of, access to space to practice and work out and develop things and play and meet, and that it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to do it, and that there seems to be a lot of. So I like that. I think that's it's an amazing thing that if you have an artistic idea, there is support to develop it, and I've learned that. Germany has visas for artists, for visiting artists. I was just talking to an American who is here, which I love. So there's just like a lot of support for culture, which is beautiful. But also the city it's a beautiful city. It's these wide boulevards and cool. There seems to be a lot of people who enjoy passing time with one another. So there's, beautiful cafes and people who luxuriate in time together, and beautiful little shops and a lot of different kinds of neighborhoods that feel really different. And that's also really fun. There's a lot of personality.
Yeah. Do you live inside San Francisco nowadays?
Mm-hmm.
And what area? So like really central or?
I live in a place called The Mission, which is not the financial center, like it's not downtown, but it's a pretty fun neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's kind of was largely Latino, and is slowly changing because, well, or it's quickly changing. Because of a lot of dynamics around Silicon Valley and kind of a tech boom and changing prices and gentrification and things like that. But it's a beautiful neighborhood, and I live on top of a hill and can see the city, and I'm right by a park. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty similar to the area we're in here in Berlin and Neukölln, which doesn't have the Latinos, but like the Turkish and Arabic people and so on. And basically, you can see the same thing going on here that I think you can see in the Mission District right now in San Francisco. So yeah. And have you seen Berlin Improv already? I mean, apart from what you've seen last year during the AIN conference.
Let's see. I have not seen any improv yet. I've worked with a couple of groups, which has been really exciting. I've had the chance to teach or lead workshops for a couple of groups, which has been great, but I haven't seen any performances yet. So I hope to. That would be lovely.
Speaking about improv, when did you start with improv? When did you start to improvise in a improv theater?
In a kind of a serious professional way?
No, I mean like general. When did you start with it? Like,
I think I took my first improv class when I was in high school, when I was like 15 maybe. And then I did it on my high school improv team, and then I did it when I got to college. I joined my college improv team at Stanford, and then graduated and got a job on staff at Bats Improv, Bay Area Theater Sports. Yeah.
Interesting. So you heard about improv in school, basically, so to say.
I was a drama kid. I was like a theater kid, and all of my actually, there was a kid at a neighboring high school who read Impro and saw a group called True Fiction Magazine, who are in San Francisco and do long form improvisation. And I still play with a lot of those folks now. And he loved improv, and he wanted to create a league of theater sports. And so he contacted somebody at my high school, and they contacted me and said, you should play with us. You should audition for this improv team. And so it was a student-led improv team, and that kid who started the league at the neighboring school is now the artistic director of Bats Improv, and I play with him. He's one of my best friends. So it's nice. It's an incredible reincorporation.
That's pretty cool. So what made you actually then stick with improv? Was it like, what did you see it as, like your profession, your job? Or?
I never saw it as my profession until it was my profession. Rather, I never. I feel very much like improv chose me, because I don't think that I never kind of decided like, this is it. This is my calling. This is what I want to do. I just kept. I mean, it's so much fun that if I have the opportunity to do it, I will keep doing it. And opportunities kept opening themselves up to me, and I kept saying yes to the right things at the right times. And, there was a time when I applied to grad school, and I was going to go to graduate school to get an MFA in acting. I was going to be an actor right after college, and I didn't get in anywhere. And instead, I started improvising professionally. So it's also in that way, I feel like the universe was conspiring to give me a life of improvisation. Yeah. It was a very improvisational career path, actually, because mistakes are gifts, and everything's an offer. And take those things that come up and keep saying yes, and you'll find yourself in a beautiful place that you could not have envisioned. You could not have planned it yourself.
Yeah. Nice. So interesting. I'm asking these questions because I think in the US it's much more common to start with improv in school. So I try to remember my other English guest, Randy. I think he didn't start in school because it was not taught in school when he went to high school. Mm-hmm. But I think many other people actually did, right? For example, I have a colleague at work. He also had improv in school. So it's pretty common in the US, isn't it?
I think it is getting more and more common. I think it was new at my school when I was in high school. And I think now there are more people. There's, Whose Line Is It Anyway has gotten really popular. Improv in general is gaining popularity. And so kids are getting more curious about it and starting teams and starting to play, and drama teachers are more likely to be teaching it in classes. So I think it is definitely gaining popularity, and it's more prevalent in high schools. I actually coach 2 high school improv teams, just about a half an hour outside of the city, and I love it. It's like, I think it's a perfect fit for high school.
Yeah. And what is your actual like educational background, or did you study anything or whatever?
Yeah, in school I did a double concentration in drama and psychology, which when I look back on it feels very much like a major in improvisation because it combines performance and theater and people, and there it is, right? We're always climbing into the skins of other people and kind of honoring the different ways people have of reacting to one another and interacting with one another, and that's what psychology is. So
what was your plan when you chose those study subjects, psychology and drama?
I didn't have one.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is the story of my life. I didn't have a plan. I just kept going. I chose drama because it was just because I was always in the theater. I went to Stanford thinking that I wouldn't major in drama because it seemed too. It seemed like I should take advantage of the academic rigor of a Stanford education, and that Stanford's not known for their drama department. That's not why people go there. They go for these other degrees. But so I wasn't planning on majoring in drama, but I realized that the only thing that I was doing plays and meeting with theater people and doing projects and coming up with projects. That's the only thing that I wanted to do. And so I just stopped fighting it, basically. I majored in drama because I decided that I was going to do what's obvious, like just be obvious. And then I majored in psychology because my parents said maybe you should major in something that could actually get you a job somewhere. Which I totally appreciate. And I loved psychology, and it's what I was most interested in after theater. And so, yeah, so that's why I did it.
Yeah. Nice. You already mentioned it. You're playing with the BETS, the Bay Area Theater Sports.
Yes.
So how long do the BETS exist?
Since 1986. So almost
86.
What is that? Almost 30 years?
Yeah, 20, indeed.
27, 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was so impressed because I think Randy mentioned that the Unexpected Productions have been founded around the same time, a bit earlier, I think, a bit earlier, beginning of the 80s. Wow. And
we actually, the person who came down and gave us our first workshop in 1986 is Rebecca Stockley, who started improvising in Seattle. So she came from Seattle. She knows Randy. She's buddies. And she came down and taught our first workshop down in the Bay Area to a group of actors called Fratelli Bologna. And they started Bats Improv. They were like, oh, we should not stop doing this. So we'll keep going. So we came from Seattle, and then some improvisers from San Francisco went down to LA and started improvising down there. So there's like a lineage, a heritage of theater sports.
And do you actually have a favorite trainer? Now, speaking about it, just curious.
A favorite coach, a favorite teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Improv teacher.
I'm very lucky because I find that I am playing with people all the time who are better than me in various ways, and so I feel like playing with almost all of them is challenging me to get better, to be better than I am. So in some ways, all of my colleagues are my best teachers, which is an incredibly lucky place to be in, I think. And I think playing with people who are slightly better than you all the time is perhaps the best plan for studying because it'll really inspire you to raise your bar.
And coming back to the BET, so you mentioned that high school kid asked you, so are you technically a founding member of the BETS then, is that correct?
Oh, no. He created something called the Devil Mountain Improv League, which was a high school improv league. And BATS started in 86 when I was about 4 or 5 in San Francisco. So I joined after college, and it was long in existence by then.
And when did you join?
In 2006.
Oh yeah. So 8 years now.
Yeah.
Well, we already briefly touched upon the subject. So did you play with other groups before, except maybe the high school thing? I mean, like
Before Bats?
yeah.
I played with at Stanford. I played with the Stanford Improvisers, which was the only group at Stanford, led by Patricia Ryan Madsen, who is the author of Improv Wisdom, a wonderful little book about applying improv to your daily life. So if you don't have it, you should go get it. It is translated into German. Your German audiences will be happy to know.
I will link it to this podcast article.
Excellent. It's a great book. Let's see. So I played with them, and then right when I got out of college, I did a couple of shows with random groups. I now play with Bats, and I play with a group called Awkward Dinner Party, which is with my partner Dave Dennison, and I play with a group called Improv Playhouse of San Francisco, which is with Tim Orr and Rafe Chase. No, not with Rafe Chase. Tim Orr and Regina Saisi and Ben Johnson.
Yeah, so coming back to the Bats, how big is the ensemble right now? The Bats?
22 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And how many shows do the Bats play, like per month or per week?
Bats has performances every weekend. So we have a theater. We have a 200-seat theater that is just ours, and we do trainings there, and we do shows there every Friday and Saturday. And our student community shows are on Sundays. So there are shows every weekend of the year.
And how often are you then on stage in one of these shows?
It totally depends on availability and what else is going on. The directors of the various shows send out a poll saying, are you free these weekends? And then based on that availability, they cast the shows. So some weekends, or rather some months, it's 3 or 4 shows a month, and some shows it's none. Some months it's no shows if other stuff is going on or I'm traveling or whatever.
Yeah, you already mentioned it. You have an own theater in San Francisco, the Bats have. So, how did you get this? Or what was the way to take this decision to have an own theater? Because do you use this also during the week for something else, or do you let it to people? Or
it's a great question. I want to say that we got the theater in 2000 or so, 2005. I might have my dates wrong on that. I forget exactly how long we've had it. But we used to, so Bats started out playing on Monday nights because they were dark nights for other shows. And they would go around and they would play in theaters around the city on the set of whatever show was happening in that theater. So they would kind of travel and play wherever there was space and wherever a theater would let them. And then I think they started playing at a theater, at the theater that we're in now, on a more regular basis. They were renting it out more consistently, and it came up for lease. So it became available, and the lease was available, and I think it was a very big decision for Bats to make, to decide to be a permanent resident and have this space to fill and manage, and they did, and it's been wonderful. I think it's a really unique thing for an improv company to not only have their own space, but have a really beautiful theater that's built for improv. I mean, this was before I was around, but they renovated the theater, so there's a door and a window and it's made for improv, and it looks like a theater, not like a club or. So it feels like a theater going experience. It's a really beautiful space, and it's right on the bay, so the windows look out onto the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, I've been there in 2012 actually, and saw you guys play. So
oh, great! Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah. It's a beautiful space.
And so, do you guys then still play like in bars or any other place?
We don't. We have a branch of the company called Improv on the Go, Bats on the Go, and that's if you're a company and you have a holiday party that you want an improv show at, or a picnic or whatever, you can hire us to go do that. But our shows are always in the theater.
Fort Mason Center, right?
Yep. Fort Mason Center, the Bayfront Theater.
And is it then, or are there groups in San Francisco or the Bay Area who play like in bars, or is this not very common over there in the US? Or
it is not actually very common. That's interesting. Generally, improv companies in the Bay Area will find a performance space like a theater and rent out a theater for short-term or long-term. But generally, all the improv that I can think of happens in theaters.
Interesting. So what about because I think there must be like big stand-up comedy scene in the US as well. Isn't this maybe something where improvisers would go as well and perform, or is this not so common?
I think there is a good stand-up comedy scene. I don't know anything about it. I'm afraid to say stand-up comedy terrifies me. It terrifies me. It seems like the scariest thing on earth.
How come?
Well, because in improv, like you've got somebody else. You're never alone. You've got a buddy, so that if you're going down, at least you're going down together. But when you have somebody else, you've always got something. You can make something together. But man, being all alone up there on a stage with the expectation that you're going to make people laugh. Oh man, no, thank you. This terrifies me. So, but I think maybe part of the reason why a lot of the improv in the Bay Area takes place in theaters, and this is a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a lot of narrative long form. So single story, longer, sustained narratives, improvised in various styles and formats and things. And I think that doesn't lend itself very well to being done in a bar, because it is a longer story. It's more like watching a play than like watching comedy. So I think if people were doing more kind of fast and funny and quick and witty and punchliney improv, then a bar would be more fitting. I think that there was more bar prov done or earlier, kind of, years ago, and the community in some ways has evolved, I think.
Interesting. So theoretically, it could still be that maybe some smaller groups are perform in bars, but you would say usually they rent something.
Yeah. And there's a cool network of small theaters in San Francisco. A lot of lovely kind of 50-seat spots that you can rent for a weekend at a time or whatever, if there's availability. And it's
and how much would that be? I'm just curious. Do you know?
Let's see. One of my favorite places seats about 65 or so, and I want to say it's $350 for the night. $350.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Another space that I'm playing in a lot right now is $425 for a weekend night. So.
And do you let the Fort Mason Center to other groups when you're not playing, like from, I don't know, Monday to Friday, or do you have
Sure, yeah. If something comes up, although we offer all of our classes, I would say that we have classes every night of the week in the theater. But during the day, sometimes companies need to use it for meetings or whatever. If there's a rental, we'll do that as long as it doesn't interfere with our shows.
And how big is the improv scene in San Francisco or in the Bay Area?
It's big. There's like a lot of really good improv in San Francisco. There's a lot of different groups doing a lot of different styles of improv, which is really fun.
Is there any like personal recommendation you have if somebody comes to San Francisco or to the Bay Area? What group to definitely see?
I think you should definitely come see Bat's Improv. I think that would be great. Let's see. There's the thing with. Let me think. There's a lot of different improv. It doesn't always happen consistently. Like it's not always like, every Saturday night. I know there's always late night Saturday shows downtown near Union Square. I have some friends in the Secret Improv Society. They're always playing there. The Unscripted Theater Company has shows every Saturday night late. They also do a lot of genre long form. Improv Playhouse of San Francisco does a lot of long form as well. Right now we're doing a lot of stage plays. So yeah, there's loads of improv kind of tucked around in different holes of the city.
What was the name? The Secret
Improv Society.
Secret Improv Society. Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. So in case I'm going there again,
yeah,
I already mentioned it. I was in San Francisco for a holiday in 2012 and watched one of your shows. Which was James Bond show, which was pretty cool. So if you don't mind, I have a few questions about this format.
Sure, yeah.
So the first one was, after I saw the show, I was thinking like, okay, there are like some typical elements in this show. So for example, if I remember correctly, you were asking for like 3 places. One was a European city, one was like some exotic place in Asia, I think, and one was I forgot, like maybe some other city, maybe in the US or something like that. And you were also asking for those kind of weapons that I think Q is doing. And then my impression was that the piece in itself was like you had like chapters, like from station to station, and then you introduced like these items that Q had, and then at some point James Bond, of course, had to use them, so you had to play towards actually making this piece usable in the play and so on. And so how is this built? Or I don't know, maybe it's too secret. I don't know, maybe you want to talk about.
Actually, I think I directed Bond for the first time at Bats because I really liked action movies, and I think they're really fun, and I don't think we see a lot of action movies on stage. Like, I think they're kind of hard to do improvised, but I think they're really, really fun. Chase scenes and vehicles and cars and planes and skydiving. It's just like super fun, you know, fun storytelling to play with. So I think that I would say that Bond is the Bond anyway that I remember doing is one of the more structured beginnings to a long form that we do. Usually it's a little bit more open-ended. And part of that was, if we're going to call it improvised Bond, we want to give people the things they love about Bond. So those very first moments, if there was a credits song, like the song with the title, which is one of my favorite things, and like this like ridiculous slow motion dancing of silhouettes and guns and girls and things like that. And then the weapons and the gadgets, like all of these things are just hallmark spy movie pieces, you know, signature pieces of the genre. And so we just wanted to make sure that stuff got in there. We weren't playing Bond himself. We weren't playing Q and M like particularly, but all of those roles were in there so that we could kind of touch on those formats. And then once Bond got his mission, or the spy character got his mission, then it was whatever happens. Whatever happens, and we just tell the story. And that's when the structure ended. Although by that time we had a lot of things to use, right? We have these cities, we have the gadgets, we have the villain, you know, the villains and things like that. So a lot of the suggestion getting was just touching on what those hallmarks are of that kind of international spy format or genre.
You asked for the 3 gadgets for 3 cities and the villain. I'm just trying to remember what other suggestions, but I can't.
Yeah, I can't either.
Okay.
The hardest part about that is that it's really hard to improvise a mystery. Like, it's really hard because, you know, in improv, it's all about being obvious and getting to it and saying what's going on. And in a mystery, you can't do any of those things. Like, there's this big piece of information that's missing. So it's really easy to get wrapped up in trying to figure it out and making it mysterious and throwing more offers in that you have to make sense of later. And it can get very soupy and confusing and too big. And so we found that the best way to do it was just to follow a clue to the next location and just reveal one piece of information. And you don't have to know why that's important, but we just one thing in each scene, and then slowly you follow it back to the villain.
Was pretty cool. Can definitely recommend if somebody's in the city and wants to see it. And what other formats do you have, or have you have developed with Bats?
So many. So Bats does loads of formats. So let's see. Some of them are genre formats. So we've done gritty Western film. We've done film noir. We've done musical versions of all of those things. So we've done a musical noir recently, just improvised musicals. We've got a set of improvised holiday musicals coming up. In November, we're doing a set of improvised family dramas, which is like it's on a single set. It takes place in a family's home. It's 5 or 6 characters. They remain constant the entire night, and it's really just about these characters and how they affect one another and discovering their history and discovering how they feel about each other. And I really love that from an actor perspective.
I think that's what we in German call a Kammerspiel, I think.
It's delicious. But then we also do short form things like theater sports and more heraldy formats of kind of freer form, short form stuff. All sorts of things. We recently did Brecht when with, Uta and Thomas came. Yeah. And they taught us what they've been working on, and we loved it. And so I think we'll likely do more of that in the coming years.
Cool. And how do you go about when you develop a new format? Is it that you decide we want to do this, or is it more like a brainstorming, or somebody has an idea and introduces it to the others and then they say, yeah, we want to do this as well, or maybe no, go screw yourself?
That's a great idea. Right now we're working with this model where in August we have something of a festival where we do short runs of shows, one weekend a piece. Usually we'll do a month or two of one kind of show. So we really get to know it. But in August we do short weekends of all different kinds of shows. And I think we're moving towards using that time to workshop new formats, to put it up on its feet and try something new and see if it works. And then we'll know if we want to book it for a longer time. There's an artistic director, Casey Clem, who I told you about, who is the reason I started improvising in high school. And I think that if I were to want to try something new, I would approach him and say, I've got this idea, and I'd probably set up a workout. I'd set up a workout with improvisers who want to come and play around with it and see what's there. The cool thing about being in a company full of brilliant improvisers is that you just tell, like, I have this idea, and then you learn so much from playing with them. About what will work in the format or what won't work in the format or what's interesting or what the dangers are, et cetera. And and Casey is really wonderful about making sure the company remains inspired. I think that that's such an important thing, is that we don't...
How does he do that?
Well, he really makes sure that, for instance, there are certain formats that we know make money, that we know sell. The public likes them. But if we did nothing but that, the company would get bored. And he's really... very good at listening to what the company is interested in. And even if it makes financial sense to keep doing this one format, he will sacrifice that for the sake of keeping an inspired company, which I so appreciate and respect about the way he's making those decisions. Because I think that if you lose that, you've lost a lot. If the company stops being inspired, if the improvisers in the company stop being inspired, then it's, then the work is not rich anymore. Yeah. We're not taking any risks. We're not there for the reason that we all love improv anymore. So,
and actually, the bets probably make most of their. Or let me ask differently. So, the people in the bets company, are they making their living with improv, or do they do something else on the side, or is it like so?
It's a combination. So some of the improvisers have day jobs. Most of the improvisers teach improv. A good number of us only do improv for a living, but that can look a lot of different ways. So some people teach. I also do kind of facilitate workshops that involve improv, that are part of larger kind of creativity and innovation workshops. Let's see. Some people work for bats on staff in the school, or helping the company run. So it's not improvising, but it's improv, it's tied to the improv company. But then there's people who are, school teachers and animators and various other professions as well. Mm-hmm. Designers, graphic designers that do improv in their spare time.
And then, so the bats have like a portfolio also of like, I don't know, like standard stuff, applied improv workshops, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. People can book you for their weddings or whatever kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, I see. Another thing about your shows that very impressed me was when I saw the show last year in October that you guys did at Bühnenrausch with, I think it was you and Rebecca, and I cannot remember the third lady.
Regina Saisi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was also very impressive in that sense that I really admired how quick you guys were, because I don't know if that's maybe an Anglo-American thing. I realized this also when I watched guys or people play theater sports in London, or also like Crumbs or whoever, that these guys are all pretty fast. Mm-hmm. When I see like especially a lot of German groups, they are slower.
Yes.
And I really admire this, like in this Anglo-American thing, that people are so like really quick and bang, bang, bang. And how can you train that? Or is it maybe we Europeans, or especially we Germans, maybe we still take too much brain or head into this? I don't know.
I think that's what is a great question. How do you train quickness? Get quicker. This is not a helpful answer. I think the answer is just don't think so hard, right? If your priority is to get, play a lot of games that get you out of your head and responding to an impulse rather than an idea, right? Respond to your impulse rather than an idea. Go just because you feel like it's time to go. When you get out there, something's going to happen. Respond to timeliness rather than preparedness. Don't wait until you have the brilliant thing to do. Go because it's time to go, and then do the most obvious thing when you get out there. I think quickness comes down to just tearing your filters away. So it's not about building quickness. It's not about how can I get quicker? It's just how can I get all of the things out of the way in my brain of saying what comes to mind. So if you get yourself into a place where you've just got to come up with a lot of ideas at once, you'll get out of your head and kind of get more used to just saying anything that comes to mind, and that's when the quickness comes. And also, I think that there's something really wonderful about starting a scene with energy, right after you get a suggestion, or if you don't get a suggestion, just diving right in. I think it gives a little jolt of energy to yourself, to your scene partner, to the audience. It makes everybody kind of sit up and pay attention. And so
there's of course a risk. I mean, that's the typical improv wisdom, whatever, I don't know how you call it. There's a risk that if you are quick and answering to your impulse, you introduce this, what Lee White, for example, called space monkeys. You just introduce more and more and more, and you don't pick it up and merge it together at one point.
Yeah.
This is the
space
risk I
monkeys.
always...
You call them space monkeys?
Yeah, he called it space monkeys,
Who
which
did?
I think Lee White, which I think makes pretty much sense, because you can explain everything like, space monkeys come from outer space and conquered the earth.
Yes.
And you can justify anything basically with that. So, I think this is a big risk. So how do you actually ensure that on the one hand you're quick and you use and introduce your ideas, while on the other hand they still make sense in the context?
That's a great question.
I wish I had the answer.
I think there are times when let's see. There's times when the most important thing is you just get out there, right? So places where picking up pace and being fast and responding to one another doesn't need, like at the beginning of a scene, right? You just slam on, hit the gas, get going, right at the very beginning. Nothing's out there. Anything you do is right. But that can be a place where we really get kind of bogged down in between scenes. Get a suggestion, kind of amble off stage, think about what we're going to do, meander back on stage, start a scene. You don't need it, right? It's the very beginning of a scene. Anything you do is the right thing. So just dive in. And then in the middle of scenes, it's a great question. It's like you need to tear away the filters and then figure out which ones are helpful, right? So tear them all away, get used to responding to your impulse, and then find out if that is a problem or not. Are you throwing space monkeys in or not, and then figure out which filters are helpful to have back on. But also just practicing things like quick dialogue back and forth. Just practice getting in the rhythm of something quicker.
I think what you said before really could help if you really, especially at the beginning of a scene or a piece, approach it like, fuck off, anything is right. So
anything
I can basically
right.
introduce anything I want. I mean, unless of course you have a suggestion, you have to stick to the suggestion, of course, somehow. This is how I often see improv. You just throw out breadcrumbs or some kind of things, and then at the end you have to collect them all together and put them into your basket and make one big thing out of it.
But right, exactly.
That's a difficulty.
But at the beginning, it's like it's the easiest job to start, because you don't have to make sense of anything. You just have to be someone somewhere doing something.
And this is funny because especially at the beginning, I feel that people are often most hesitant, to do exactly that, because they're so afraid of doing something that their partners or fellow players couldn't use, that they are very cautious, especially, and then
and it's like, man, have more faith in your fellow players. They can use anything. Anything. I think the big danger, the big caution is thinking you need to know what the scene is So that's the thing that happens in the sidelines. You get the suggestion, then it's like, oh, what should this story be about? Which is totally the wrong question. Because you can't possibly know that at the beginning of a scene. All you need to know is, where am I? What am I doing? Right? So just go be anything at all. I'm running a race. Great, run a race. Everything else will come. There's no way your partners can't use that, They'll start building on it and you're ready to go. So you need to know so few things at the beginning of a scene, generally. You just need to be someone somewhere doing something. And that doesn't take a whole lot of thought process.
Yeah, cool. I'm checking the time. Actually, I'm already at the end of my question catalog. Yeah, we have been pretty quick. So, how long will you be in Berlin, Lisa? Yeah, you already said until Monday.
Yeah, I leave on the 3rd, which I believe is Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, and when? Where do you go then?
Home.
Oh, okay. So, okay, because there's actually, now that I think of it, there's this improv festival in Barcelona, which starts, I think, on Monday.
My
so
God,
I thought, maybe she's going to Barcelona.
If only. God, that'd be great. It'd be great. But no, I'm not going to Barcelona. I'm going back to San Francisco, which is a pretty great place to be going, actually.
So, and where can people see you play while you're still in Berlin?
I am doing a show at Bühnenrausch.
Bühnenrausch?
Bühnenrausch. Yeah. Okay. On Sunday at 7.
Mm-hmm. At 7 already.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say to our podcast audience here?
I would love to. Did you see any other improv while you were in the States?
Let me think. When I was in California, actually, no, I think I only saw the Bats, and then I was in Seattle where I saw Unexpected Productions, and I think that's basically it.
Cool. And is the quickness the main difference that you noticed, or were there other differences that you noticed between the improv here and the improv there?
I think it's really mainly the quickness, indeed. Maybe it goes. Maybe this discussion would go a bit more into the psychological direction if I would make like assumptions why this is like that. Maybe I think the American attitude is a bit more. I'm my own master. I'm the master of my own destiny, and this kind of. While I think European or maybe just German attitude is more a bit like passive. You know what I mean? Might be a reason. I don't know. And I cannot speak for every German, but like the general mentality is more like that, I think.
Yeah.
Which is also why Americans have such a hard time understanding that there are all these like social benefits and that the public health insurance is actually a good thing, while Europeans or especially Germans have a hard time understanding how things work out in America, that people don't have a health insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, there's this kind of individual versus collective, like care for myself, look out for myself, look out for the group difference, right? And I think, in the States, there is this kind of like, go get it, go, it's yours, go get it, go find it, go work it out. This is aggression, maybe, or rather assertiveness. This kind of like, go, grab it, which is maybe, I think that a lot of the improv in America is pretty fast and funny and it can verge on pushy, I think.
Is there a lot of competition, actually?
You mean between groups?
Yeah.
I think that there is a normal amount of competition, but in general, my belief is that improvisers, like, we're all kind of on the same side.
Exactly.
Like, we're all
exactly.
improvisers.
Yeah.
So
it's a bit of for me, it's a bit of a double-bind thing, because on the one hand, you have this like, let your partner shine attitude and embrace everything and everybody and so on. And on the other hand, you have your group, you want to earn money, especially if you're doing it professionally. And then I was just wondering if there's maybe some kind of competition. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm lacking the insight on this one, quite frankly.
I think that the instinct to feel competitive is totally there. It's like, oh, wait, but this is my turf, and what we're doing shows at that time, and hang on, what are they doing? And then there's always this moment. I've actually really loved the improvisers in my company who say, the more improv there is, the more improv there is. That's it. It means there's more improv, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. The more improv there is, that's good for improv. So I always try to keep that mentality.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice final words. Lisa, do you have an own website?
I do. It is lisarowland.net.
And I bet the Bets also have an own website.
Yes, it is improv.org. What a website.
Improv.org.
Improv.org. O-R-G. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got it early.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, then I thank you very much for being here and taking the time to discuss this.
Oh, thank you so much. I could talk about improv forever and ever. So it's a treat to sit down and answer questions about it.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
I fully agree.
What a good job you have. You get to talk about improv all the time.
Thanks, Lisa. Und vielen Dank an die Zuhörer, die hier reingehört haben, uns zugehört haben, wie wir über Impro sprechen. Das war Folge 20 meines Impro-Podcasts. Mein Name ist Claudia Hoppe und ich sage Tschüss.